What's up YouTube? Now today I'm doing a review on the shell that I'm sure you've seen probably from my last video that was just a few pictures. This is the German 76mm message shell. It's Minenwerfer or Minenwerfer, not sure how you can pronounce that. I'm sure there's somebody out there that knows how you can pronounce that, but I'm not sure if that's correct or not. But anyway, here's the actual shell. It's the 76mm message round. You can see the pre-cut drive band there, which has a bit of damage, which is expected, but overall it's not in too bad condition. And then you can see the holes for the jet in the bottom, because don't forget this shell didn't have a brass casing. This was propelled by itself, which would have had some sort of like paper charges that were in there, that when they were lit from this primer here that you can see, it would have carried on burning through these holes and would have propelled itself. Now these are actually reverse threaded, so it's righty loosey and lefty tighty for this one, and it unscrews fairly easily, and the threads are in really good condition. And you can see in the bottom that I haven't cleaned it, but it is a pretty good condition. You can still see the spin marks from where the metal has originally been shaped, and there you can see the brass primer and the steel ring. You can see the lines here where the shell is actually being made. As I said, I haven't actually cleaned this one up because I'm not entirely sure whether I should clean it up, but due to how rare these things are, as they don't come around very often. But as you can see, the threads there are really good, and I'm actually not sure whether this is actually rust on the surface. I think it's actually been cast in a way that the surface is supposed to be rough. And again, on the actual shell, the texture is all rough texture, yet the top cap, which I believe is actually a transit cap, but I'll go to that later, is really smooth. And also in the bottom of it, you can see that that's really smooth just when the light gets in it there. And the threads are all in good condition, but this is actually mint condition steel, so, and obviously that's had holes in it, so water could have got in there. So if it was rust, the insides of these bits would be rusty as well, so I'm pretty sure that it's been cast rough and it's not actually rust. And then, anyway, into the important bit that you all wanted to see, or that you'd all want to see, is the top cap, which unscrews. Now you can see a big punch mark there. Well, it's not a massive punch mark, but it is a bit of damage where I actually got a chisel and hit the top of the shell to try and unscrew it, and obviously I was successful in doing that. And the damage is worth doing to get inside the actual shell, because inside the shell, as you know from the last video, there was a message, which is incredibly rare to find. I'm not actually sure if any other shells have been found with a message in, but up until now this is the only one that I am aware of. Now, as I was saying before, most of these other shells that I've seen have a steel adapter and a brass fuse on them. This just has the steel, what I believe is a transit cap, so that which wouldn't make sense, as this is high grade thick steel, so it's actually quite weighty. You would imagine that it would be light, but most of these message shells have actually had a fuse quite similar to this on, with an adapter, obviously, which would have screwed in to there like that. And inside the actual shell, there would have been a type of steel canister, which would have held a flare. If I just get a torch down there, the shell is actually empty. So, which is really unusual, as most of these shells, or all of these shells to my knowledge, would have been fitted with a flare. Hence the fuse would have set the flare off, so when this shell actually landed, the fuse would blow and the flare would come out, which would indicate where the shell was. So this one's just been fitted with a transit cap, which doesn't really make sense to me, because unless it was fired in an absolute rush and the person firing it never put the flare and the fuse on, sorry, they just put the transit cap back on with the message inside. That's beyond me, because even if it did land, and nobody would be able to see it because they wouldn't see the flare. Now, just a quick view of the actual message that was in the shell. I am keeping it in a plastic container because it's keeping the letter actually airtight, because I'm not really sure if it being exposed to the air and the humidity will do the letter any good, and will it decompose or damage it in any way. I really don't want to damage it, so I'm trying to keep it as best I can. And just if anybody can offer me any advice in the comments on how I can preserve this letter, as obviously you can see that it's burnt and it's not in mint condition by any means, as obviously it was fired from this shell, so the bottom of it has been burnt from the actual charge, and it was rolled up in the shell. I've straightened it out as best I could, and it's reasonably straight. But there is a second page, and I'm going to put pictures up in a second of what the actual message says in close-up, as I'm not planning on getting it out of the plastic because it may decay and I don't want it to decay. So, but if anybody can offer me any advice on how to preserve this or what to do with it, I have actually contacted the Imperial War Museum in Manchester, and they quite effectively wrote back to me saying that they have forwarded my message to the Imperial War Museum in London, and I'm awaiting a reply from them. So hopefully they might be able to offer me advice, or just come and check the shell out and see what it is and see if it all adds up. So I'm still waiting a reply on them, but in the meantime that's what I'm doing. I've left it in a sealed plastic bag. So if anybody else can offer me anything better advice wise than that, I'm grateful to hear from it. So that's pretty much it for this really rare message shell with message. Thanks for watching. And also, just whilst at the end of the video, happy birthday to Bubblegump9325, as it is his birthday at the weekend, so happy early birthday to you. Your maker's marks or anything else on it. And then we have the timer ring, and